This opportunity to replay a July 15th interview with Melanie Vigil, Laramie City Council candidate for Ward 2, and the upcoming election August 20th, and early voting available now at the Albany County Building since that started July 23rd. Welcome to this edition of the Talk Shop, Campaign Awareness Tour 2024, brought to you in part by Corona Village and Martindale's Western Store, along with those good folks at Wholesale Fireworks Incorporated. Those three individual businesses, along with the UPS store, delighted to bring you today's City Council candidate, Melanie Vigil. And Melanie, you have agreed to participate in the campaign awareness tour. Most appreciate you joining us. And as you are preparing through your campaign efforts, how do you introduce yourself to people in your ward?
In my ward. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. This is a wonderful opportunity, and I'm really glad to be here. So how I introduce myself, my name is Melanie Vigil. I'm a Ward 2 candidate. I've lived here in Laramie for almost 15 years now. I took a 2-year break to try out ASU in Phoenix, Arizona, and did not love the heat, so I decided to come back home, and now here I am. And so I'm an assistant dean of students at the university here in Laramie, and I just love Laramie. My family is from Laramie. My mom was born here. My dad went to school here. And I always make the joke that I can't even go to Safeway without seeing a cousin or a relative. And so this is just been for most of my adult life, and I love it here, and I want to give back.
What draws you to give back? Usually people in education consider that giving back, and doing assistant dean's work has to be most rewarding, and you've decided that that's not enough. You're endeavoring to do more.
Yeah, it's been a busy time in my life right now for sure. But yeah, most of my career has been in higher education, and I get a lot of joy and reward out of that in and of itself. But I think for me, my entire life, I've always been involved in volunteer activities. I've been on several just boards and commissions here within the state and here in Laramie as well. And so it's always just kind of been in my DNA to want to be an active community participant. And a couple of folks a few months ago were saying I should run for city council, and so here I am. And it's been a new kind of exciting adventure for me. I've volunteered on campaigns in the past for other people, but being a first-time candidate has certainly been an experience thus far.
What key issues have you identified through maybe your committee or your neighbor walks or whatever endeavors that you've done that you've identified that are key issues for Ward 2 residents?
Yeah, that's a great question. So part of my ward is actually kind of smack in the middle of the university where I work. And so I spend most of my day talking to young people. I've worked my entire life with the age range between 18 and 25. And something that I'm really passionate about is housing affordability, rental protections. And so our city council passed our rental ordinance not too long ago. I know that a lot of the folks that I work with and that I hear from on a daily basis are really passionate about keeping those protections and even strengthening them if need be. And so that's something that I'm pretty passionate about. In particular, I'm also a renter here in Laramie. I've been a renter my entire adult life. And so Yeah, I'm really passionate about wanting to keep young people here, and I think part of how we do that is by creating places and environments and scenarios that would want to keep them here, right? So if they have a safe place to go home at the end of the day, if they have a carbon monoxide detector, those simple things can make a big difference in terms of keeping folks here in our community.
As you prepare to go into the primary election on August 20th, it's my understanding July 23rd, the absentee ballots will become available to Albany County residents, and as such, people are encouraged to vote on or before August 19th, have those turned in and received on or before August 19th, so that on election day, the 20th, it will be an all-counted affair, and the decisions will be made. How many seats are open in Ward 2 in this election?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's two seats available. Excuse me. 2 seats available. There's 6 of us running, and 4 of us will make it to the general election in November.
So top four will go for the final 2.
Yes.
Position. Okay. And who vacates seats this term? Are there any incumbents running in your ward?
Yep. So 2 incumbents would be Jane Pierce and then Andy Somerville.
Okay.
Yeah.
So two of those seats. And how do you feel as a new candidate to Ward 2 representation? What do you feel you bring that no other candidate has offers like you do?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of talked about it before a little bit, just with my passion for keeping young people here in our community. And so bringing that aspect, I'd really, really want to focus on that and getting young people more involved in our local elections and local decisions. And so part of the reason that I wanted to run in the first place is because I think City Council does some of the most important granular work of any type of government. And so for City Council, they deal with things as mundane to our everyday lives as like sidewalks, walking on the sidewalk and making sure that we have updated water lines and all of those kinds of things. And I really want to get folks in all of the communities that I'm part of and serve more invested in what we're doing locally. I think that's really important. And so that's kind of what I would set out to do. I'd love to see like just a diverse array of people joining city council meetings and going to the work sessions and all of those kinds of things. And so that's part of my big thing.
How do you feel that you will maintain or build? First of all, you mentioned building that involvement. How do you expect to engage Ward 2 residents and build that activity?
Well, I think I've thought about this a lot, and I think people are more likely to engage when their leaders are really consistent. And so something that I would want to do if I were elected is hold coffee hours at a local coffee shop, or rent out a space in our public library, and just really be able to be present and there for community members who might have concerns or have questions about what's coming up at the next meeting, those kinds of things. Even if, people are busy, they have lives, they have jobs, families. And so even if there's one person there, I think that's worth it. But hopefully over time with that consistency, I'm showing up every week at this place and this time, will help drive some engagement as well.
If somebody reaches out to you, one of your constituents, or perhaps a City of Laramie concerned citizen at large, how will they know that they've reached you?
Well, I definitely have my email out there for folks. And I think I'll be honest, I think I screwed up when I filed and didn't put down my cell phone number, because then when I looked at everyone who had filed, all of their numbers were there except for mine. And I was like, oh no, I've made a critical error. So I will go back and fix that. But really, you and I were kind of talking earlier just about how prevalent and important technology has kind of become. And I will tell you, I'm a true millennial. I'm always glued to my phone in some capacity. And so you can definitely reach me there. And yeah, so I think those are definitely the best ways. But then, of course, the good old mail is always fun to receive as well. So.
Sure. You mentioned technology. It just so happens that we are having technical difficulties out of our control in Studio 255 in the Laramie Plains Civic Center. We normally broadcast this live on Facebook, the Talk Shop Facebook page, and it be shareable. As it were, we are recording this, and we hope to make that recording available to everybody as soon as possible as well. But we're really beholding. We're really. If tech doesn't work right, our society is really inhibited.
I think I used the word cooked.
Yeah, cooked. Hey, you bring up coffee, a meeting for coffee and so forth. What would you say to a council perspective that we're available enough in city council chambers? We're available enough with 3 minutes on public comment. Have you witnessed City of Laramie government representing you or Ward 2 residents as well as possible?
I mean, I think that's a great question. I think that what I do love about Wyoming politics in particular, no matter which side of the fence that you're on any one issue, what I've appreciated and what I've experienced in the past is our Laramie government officials, and then also statewide, are just super available. I've never had an email go unanswered. A lot of, again, folks put their phone numbers out there, all of those kinds of things. And so I've been pretty satisfied with that. And I think, 3 minutes isn't a long time for public comment. You really have to know what you're going to go up there and say, and so you can be heard as clearly as possible, right? But yeah, I think sometimes also city council meetings can run really long and people get tired. And so that's kind of where some of my ideas have come from about providing alternative spaces, just to kind of, get my face out there too, and be able to hear in a more extended conversation what concerns are.
As you consider the type of city council representative you want to be, go back a few months, and the city of Laramie is in great debate over parking in historic downtown Laramie, and a 50-year renewable lease is a matter of discussion at the core of this potential proposed 88 apartment unit build that might be 5 stories, might be 6, depending on which corner of the coffee table you were on at this restaurant, or perhaps this corner of Ivinson and Grand, and the streets of Laramie and so forth. But as people talked, there was a sense at one point it was conveyed that city council didn't have to have this meeting open to the public, and that it was almost like a favor to citizens to have the opportunity to hear and to discuss and to give input outside of a official city council meeting. It was really a blow to a lot of people who felt that they were important members of this community. Were you back in that at that time? What was your view on this renewable lease that spans through 2042, another 20 years, and it provides a minimum of 41 parking spaces guaranteed in downtown Laramie, up to 61 spaces, and yet the apartment complex proposed parking that was much less than 1.5 times 88 apartment units. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, wow. The community really got fired up about that. I don't know if you follow Laramie Classifieds on Facebook. I do, and I think that's where a lot of community conversation happens, and that was all I saw for probably 2 weeks. I was talking to a downtown business owner back when I was tabling for Freedom Has a Birthday on the 4th, and she was really asking me my opinions on parking downtown. And I feel pretty strongly that we have to have accessible parking for folks to be able to have their dinners with their families, downtown, even in the winter when the roads are bad, it's icy. I think about providing access to a lot of our disabled neighbors who would benefit from that parking. And so I really think I'd have to kind of look into the issue more. I think part of how we solve parking downtown, because I'll be the first to admit I get a little frustrated when I'm just trying to run into Poppy's for a greeting card or something and I can't find a parking spot. I think that's a very, very Laramie common issue that everyone can kind of that everyone deals with from time to time.
I can neither confirm nor deny that I may have parked briefly in the alley, blinking my flashers of hazard lights.
Yeah, yep.
In order to do just such a quick errand. And
I think, part of how we solve that, and I have some ideas but would want to get community input too. I think expanding our access to public transportation would be helpful. And so I don't have all of that figured out yet, but especially for folks without cars, how do we get them to downtown easier? I work at the university and there's been some ideas around some of that public transportation stuff. And so I'd really like to have some more community conversations about that because I think it's an interesting topic to explore when it comes to the parking issue that we have.
Is government need to get larger? Does government service at the right size? Is it necessary to change? We have reportedly $173,000 salary going to our city manager, and reports are that that's higher than the governor of Wyoming salary. And how do you feel about that as a matter of fiscal responsibility in the community of Laramie?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think you were talking to Paul Montoya about the same thing when he was on your show. Right. Yeah. So I watched some of that, and I didn't know exact numbers. But I think one of the issues that I've experienced in my own professional life and a problem that we have here in Laramie is, in general, a lot of the salaries, whether it be through the university or wherever, just are not high enough with all the inflation that we have, right?
Market rate in the industry.
Right? Yeah. And so that's something I've heard a lot about from people. And so I think you have to pay people what they're worth. You have to pay, some higher salaries to keep folks here in town. And so I don't really have a huge comment on the city manager's salary. I think I'd learned that statistic from Paul Montoya when I watched the show.
And in all fairness, maybe it's just better to go to the second tier of that question, which is government right-sized for Laramie, or is it in your view, are there areas that need to be larger, or is that something that you feel comfortable commenting on?
Yeah, I'm not sure that we need to be larger. That's never a thought that's crossed my mind or an issue that I've heard other community members talk about. I think what Laramie does really well in almost every industry is I think we're really good at having to do more with less sometimes. We certainly see that in my job environment at times. And so I think, we're a community of like some scrappy folks, and we do a really good job at being efficient in a lot of areas. Could there be room for improvement? I'm sure. I think if you're not asking those questions, then you should be. But I have been proud to be from Laramie and kind of what I've seen some of what our council has done, some of what our government has done. I felt proud about a lot more than I would be mad about, I guess is what I'd say.
This morning in my neighborhood, there was bulldozers and ground crews starting their work at 6:30 this morning to dig foundation in a west side lands property, and that space is approved for 3 twin homes. Now the scope of this build arguably challenges one's interpretation of like and similar to its surrounding. How literal do you think we should be in order to enforce Uniform Development Code in the city of Laramie and uphold the rights of existing citizens as well as the need for housing, as you mentioned earlier in our interview?
Yeah. I mean, I think you bring up a really great point, and I think an example of kind of some of what you're talking about can be found with some of the historic preservation stuff that they're doing on the west side. And what I really appreciated about one of those studies that came out was the community involvement. And so what I would like to see is definitely more of that. My family's from the west side, and I still have family over on the west side, and I didn't really know about any of this until honestly kind of recently, within the last probably year, 6 months. And so if there's a way to like knock on neighbors' doors and say, hey, there's a community meeting happening at this time on this date, please come. And doing like I said earlier, the consistency, the follow-up, the follow-through. And so when it comes to, building code, when it comes to all of those types of things, I think what I'd be really good at is being a conduit to community conversation. I do that in my day job all of the time. That's actually probably the biggest part of my job. And so if I don't have, and I don't know that I have a direct answer to that question, but how I'd go about finding an answer, I think is really accessible for a lot of the community.
In the case of city planning department for the city of Laramie, I myself was once told, I don't work for you, Eric. I work for the city council. Is that an ideal, or is that a reality that you think should exist or should be conveyed? Citizens in the community?
I mean, I think that's an interesting comment because the city council, in my mind, works for the people of Laramie. And so that's kind of a weird, that's an interesting comment, is what I'll say.
The comment was made in October 2021.
Okay.
And it was made directly by Derek Taney, city planner, who had at that time Matthew Cox, one assistant in that department. The city planning department has expanded, and now there's like 6. There's a handful of folks in there. So if the city of Laramie grows as dynamically as that department has, they'll be solving the housing shortage in no time. However, if we don't build things like and similar, even if something's zoned to allow a certain type of build. It's should we build if it's not like and similar. If you're going to place a $3.1 million project right next to somebody's home that's currently has a tax value of $295,000, what's the future of that home, that neighborhood, in terms of a ripple effect from that $3.1 million comparator home build right next door? Taxes are already accelerating in that neighborhood. $1,000 to $2,400 is what I've heard in the range.
Yeah.
In 1 year. That's substantial. Not in any retirement year of my family have I seen a cost of living increase in retirement from city employee wages that would have even kept up close to that.
Yeah.
And Social Security also failing to keep that pace of increase. And yet we have excess revenue. We can actually fund, according to county officials, we have enough in reserves that we could fund operations a minimum of 6 months without taking in a penny of more revenue. And so while I understand contingency funds, that like and similar factor seems really concerning in that I don't know that it's real likely that a home built in the 1800s or 1900s is going to keep pace with a home constructed in 2024 at a market value of 3.1 million. I don't even see how the city of Laramie is addressing realities that don't just affect future. I mean, if you want to bulldoze a neighborhood, why don't you just come forward and say so? Because really what you're going to do is you're going to drive people out of your homes that you have that are occupied spaces and have been there for generations. And it's the largest investment that many people have. And yeah. I'm curious if that's something you've been able to look at, or if you would look at that as a city council person, and what resources would you rely on in your strategy to address that question?
No, I mean, I think that's a great question, especially that term like and similar. That could be a cause for concern for sure. I think when it comes to property taxes, nobody likes taxes. I don't know a single person who's like, yeah, taxes. But I'd be for some like targeted relief and really diving into kind of what that looks like. And I'm still even doing some research myself on some of these proposals, and so that's something I can definitely get back to you about.
Sure. We'll do given our technical issues today, we're gonna do a follow-up together for sure, and we can revisit this, and I'll share the recording of our interview together with you, and it's really something that's genuine in that not only do I have that question, but 20 minutes before I headed this direction to Studio 255, I was asked by a neighbor, what's going to happen to me, Eric?
Yeah.
What's going to happen to me? That's a career retiree that's gone a lifetime working, saving, paying bills, and trying to enjoy the peaceful enjoyment of their residence in their retirement years. And now they're faced with the threat of exceedingly escalating taxation, insurance. They're looking at an alleyway that's not paved in any other section of West Side. It's not paved. There's no paved alley. You can compare You can compare historic downtown Laramie alleys, and you can compare other areas of Laramie where there might be a paved alley, but are they 1800 platted alleyways that are 15-foot width at most?
Yeah.
and not Uniform Development Code required 24-foot width alleyways? And in that difference, what UDC codes are we going to push aside and ignore or not value as highly? What's the litmus test for Melanie Vigil on city council?
Yeah, I mean, again, so when I go door to door, this has not come up yet.
Fair enough.
It really hasn't. Yeah. But one thing I do ask folks is what are you most passionate about? What do you want to see? And what is not happening for you currently? And so I think I'm going to be a little more targeted in some of those questions because I love this and I want to circle back on this for sure.
One of the things that's come up through, let's see, first city council representative visited with me. Maybe filing date was May 15th start, May 31st end for filing, for candidate filing in Albany County. And the first city council interview for the candidate awareness tour was May 20th, 21st, if memory serves me. And in that, right on the hot topic, the button of issue was parking, historic downtown potential for residency, and apartment build and so forth. One of the studies was a 2015 Thrive study that identified the demand of 148 surveyed across various types of housing. And only 3% desired the type which was multi-unit housing, multi-unit high density housing. Infill and up is the trend across the nation with respect to build, because we can do it on a smaller footprint with higher return perhaps on our investment, and if we don't go so high, we don't have to sprinkle them, and we don't have to incorporate those cost savings or those safety pieces that could be utilized for the good of generations forward and the safety of residents. But profit being the thing, I understand supply and demand. I understand the economic things. It's not easy to face city council considerations that will impact people's lives, both current owners and future, in balance. But right next to each other, whether it's Ward 1, 2, or 3 in our city, you have matters of utmost concern for residents. And I don't know that people feel comfortable with necessarily having coffee, but I like the invitation. I really think that with regularity and sincerity, that genuine relationship and rapport with residents and representatives could be achieved. It seems that there's a history of abating parking. I mean, 16 spaces were at the onset of Laramie Main Street Alliance. Those were eliminated and replaced with landscaping, which came at $250,000 plus in revenue outlay to build these two spaces at the end of Ivinson and the end of Grand Avenue, if the end were at the rail edge of the Union Pacific Railway lines and historic downtown. So where we've made a decision to do that, on the parking matter, what idea do you have that would maybe it wasn't considered? Maybe out of 35 people who spoke in public comment at the May 6th meeting on parking, where it was decided to be postponed, whether it would be postponed or not, and it was actually 6-3 was the vote end it right there, not to postpone it, not to delay Stencil Group in any way, shape, or form, that this proposal was dead. Yeah. This proposal was not going forward in consideration because there wasn't going to be an elimination vote for that parking lease. Do you have a creative idea on how it would be done beyond the? It seems that transit is something that was grant funded for the university for a period of time. I don't know if that continues today, but it didn't go without giving transportation in connecting the University of Wyoming to property that was rail edge at the end of Grand, very most closely adjacent to what is now the business Coal Creek Coffee Company. Yeah. And that space is reserved for bus transit, and that space is evidence that there is a connection of university transit, and if it yet remains to be connected is the matter of transit solution. It seems to me that it might fall short of being the needed answer for like Laramie.
A true solution, yeah.
That maybe there's some expansion that could be done, maybe another set of schedules that could enhance and fill out the availability of parking to or from what might be considered. Maybe there's more parking, ample parking at Jacoby, at 30th and Willett. Maybe the space where current University of Wyoming students and faculty may choose to park and take transit to the classroom building or various areas. Maybe that's rightly so. Maybe there's grant money that just hasn't been applied for or secured or identified that would give that. But when I was in residence life at the University of Wyoming, in student government, we located 5 businesses that would build a parking structure, and they would operate it by contract with the University of Wyoming and the state of Wyoming in such a fashion that they would make their money back over a period of agreed years, and they would upkeep and they would keep that interest going, and then at some point the university could take over that, or they could contract for continued service from those said companies. They were agreeable in a much larger way than I would have ever imagined. Yeah. But I was younger, and in 1989 or there close after, the area we were looking at was north of Crane Hall, south of the Fine Arts Building, now the Buchanan Center. Beautiful development and expansion of that university property. The state legislature and the state of Wyoming citizens and obviously funding sources have been quite generous to the university. The demolition of Wyo Hall, the construction that's ongoing as we sit here today of a new residence hall at that juncture. Are those developments things that maybe those might provide a source, that located business in free market that would build it, operate it, and pass it back after a certain profit had been made, and then the city of Laramie might have that solution for parking, and maybe it doesn't bulldoze a beautiful lot that's already developed across from the St. Matthew's Cottage House and Fourth and what is that? Right west of the Postal Service, the downtown Postal Service, a block so Fourth and it's not Ivinson's, one over from Ivinson. University.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Beautiful. Is that? It seems studies are cumbersome and they're expensive.
They are, yeah.
And they seem to be a crutch that we rely on quite often. And maybe it's a necessary crutch, but it seems that we know the answers and we just sometimes don't want to face the answers, that we haven't presented the right answer. If we had, consensus would have been much easier.
I was just going to say,
right?
Yeah, especially with parking, right? I think if someone had come up with the perfect solution, we wouldn't be where we are, right? I think there's like multiple, and sometimes there's no perfect solution to things, and that's why government is so hard. That's why being part of a community is a lot of work, because it's a lot of dialogue, it's all of those things. And so, when I say increase public transportation, I think that's one arm of it, but I don't think it's the golden
I don't
egg.
know the schedule either. If it's like Laramie Regional Airport, there's like a 6 a.m. flight out and a 6 p.m. or later
I think it's like 8 o'clock
flight in. And if you're in Denver and you have a flight in that comes in and you have a scheduled flight from DIA to Laramie that's 6 p.m., well, you think that's exciting because I'm going to be back in Laramie before 9 o'clock. But reality, the realistic traveler knows that it's more likely that last flight will be about 9, maybe 10 into Laramie, and that's just the way it is. And it's that way week in and week out, even though they schedule two or multiple flights, they consolidate. And they consolidate, maybe it's for equipment, maybe it's for simple economics, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to be a traveler and not know that that's a reality that you face in that regard. But you bring a candidacy that is, it's really an opportunity for folks who maybe the university. I know Pat Gabriel is a current city council member and has served for many years, and perhaps that brings it's not uncommon for a spouse to be university connected, or a actual city council member to be connected to the university. What does that lend to that's an advantage, perhaps, that not every candidate has?
Yeah, I think for me it means the advantage of having a lot of really good relationships with both, because of my day job, both with the university and then with community members. And, I know that we have a town gown committee, and that's seen some things and has been interesting from what I've heard. But one of the things that I bring is a listening ear. I'm, understanding. I think I'm good at hard conversations. You kind of have to be. If you're, working for the Dean of Students office, you see a lot coming in and out every day, and just, having difficult but necessary dialogue with folks, I think is one of my strong suits. And so, whether it be, maybe I'm on city council and I see someone I work with who might make a difference, and I just have known them for years, and so it's an obvious connection there. Obviously, you have to be careful with your day job and then being on in a government entity like city council or your state legislature, whatever it is. And so, yeah, I think it'd be an interesting balance and a fun balance too of kind of navigating both of those worlds while still keeping it professional, because intermixing can get you in trouble too sometimes.
Sure. I had a question that was brought to me with respect to real estate. Mm-hmm. And the goal of Laramie Main Street Alliance, one of those is economic development in historic downtown Laramie, and there's a section of Laramie Main Street Alliance that, as I understand it, they just recently had $155,000 in fee revenue that was dedicated to support that entity. So it is a branch of the city of Laramie. Is it a duplication of community resources to have Laramie Main Street Alliance facilitating real estate discussions when there's more than 30 realtors in the Laramie area that are licensed realtors? Is that a duplication that should cost the citizens $155,000 in revenue, or that any portion of that would be duly, allocated in that way, given that there's a private sector that has licensed group of professionals representing realty interest?
Yeah. I think that's a great question. I think one of the things that I'm maybe most proud of here in Laramie is our Laramie Main Street Alliance. I think they've done amazing work for the community. I mean, before they existed, our downtown did not function or look the way it does now. And so, I love all of the kind of resources that they provide local businesses. So in terms of like economic development that way, I think they've been really helpful with helping local businesses apply for different grants, anything down to just like the marketing aspect for social media. Like, I think they've really helped increase the dialogue between community members and customers and those local businesses.
I just recently saw a photo of where a facade grant, I think,
yes,
a facade improvement grant. It might have been two of them that they got funded, and I guess it was a reimbursement celebration that the chocolate seller was one recipient, and an adjacent business on that same street also an award winner as well. And I think Laramie Main Street Alliance undoubtedly helped facilitate that. I've been in Laramie since 1987, and personally, I was very active with the Downtown Laramie Business Association, and one of the DLBA leaders of that time was John Hester, and John Hester passed away, but he was part of a recognition in Landmark Square that has John's plaque there, where Denny Graham and so many others that were integral in the development of downtown in that area, they were members of that DLBA, and the DLBA preceded the Laramie Main Street Alliance, and it followed the DDA, the Downtown Development Authority, and through different political seasons, there was movement of funds that had been operated and developed and whatnot from DDA to DLBA to what is now the Laramie Main Street Alliance. And while it may not have been a difficult transition or necessarily a smooth one, great strides have been made. There are people that have cared for a long time. The historic lighting look that Laramie Public Art decorated for historic downtown Laramie through Laramie Jubilee Days was facilitated on the posts of that which I helped John Hester install, the mounts
cool.
On each one of those light posts in historic downtown Laramie. And so I have a little personal knowledge where it comes to improvements that have been made, and scarcely any are as important as retail, parking for retail and parking for that. So while I wasn't aware enough or savvy enough to be concerned at speaking, for or against 16 or 17 spaces being replaced by landscaping, I can't deny that the landscaping looks pretty, but I'd far prefer retail business to be thriving with people that could fill up 16 more spaces in a booth at $15 or $20 plus tax revenue, day in and day out, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and in that way, maybe that they might survive and be real viable with a scope of business opportunity that went beyond restaurants, bars, or such, and that those cases might be heard. And I don't know that the current city council work sessions at 3 minutes per resident are sufficient to necessarily derive those ideas. So I'm very intrigued by your coffee sessions, and the regularity of those. I think is a dynamic that is absolutely warranted to search out and see if it's and I certainly feel that meeting with your constituents is not a favor. I do not believe it should be made to come off threatening to residents to feel that being transparent in governance is not something we had to do. And we all recognize the value of remote availability to public meetings and work and so forth like that. But I like the cross meeting. I like the ability to have people in different areas of the country and have their comment valued and integrated into a meeting where you can have 135 people present for any one issue, and overflow that's accommodated in the basement of the city hall, and to have that type of thing. I like that activity. I know that just the city council meetings that I've attended in the last 4 months, the time commitment is a serious one.
Yeah.
Does assistant dean of students time that's not an 8-hour job either a day, is it?
No, it's not.
Crazy.
No. We have our busy seasons for sure, and I would say those are definitely like at the beginning of fall, and then again at the end of the year. I'm fortunate to have some amazing colleagues that, they'll work with you. I've racked up a lot of vacation time. Yeah.
Is it still flex time?
Yeah, kind of, but also vacation for me too.
Good for you.
And so, and that was a big consideration when I decided to run, was like, can I physically actually do this?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes. I kind of joke around that, some people have really awesome hobbies, like fly fishing and mountain climbing and all this stuff. I don't have that. I really don't.
You have classes for that.
I know. I should take one in all my free time.
Yeah. No, do you have a desire to?
Yeah.
Tie flies and cast the line in and catch the trophy trout.
1,000%. I think the only reason I haven't tried fishing yet this year is because the mosquitoes have been just so bad, and they love me for whatever reason. Right. So, but that's all to say. Definitely have the time. I'm just busy, and I like being out in the community anyway. And so,
summer hours at the university, what are those? Are those still like 7:30 to 3:30 or something?
4:30.
Like that? 4:30.
Yep.
Just an hour different. I suppose, but I always liked summer hours for the university.
I do too. I appreciate them for sure. And now you can do, depending on like which department you're in or what have you, but after COVID, I think there became a lot more flexibility for especially the summer. So sometimes if you want to like work a remote day in the summer or do 410s or something like that, there's some flexibility for that now during the summer. And so I've taken a few Fridays. I do my campaign stuff on Fridays a lot. And so,
So how many shopping days remain for you to campaign? They're not shopping days, they're campaigning days. But how many to August 20th exist for us?
Ooh, Lord. What's
just
today?
Over a month, huh?
Just over a month, because it's the 15th. So literally a month and like 5 days.
Yikes.
I know.
Yikes, right?
Yeah.
Well, you have you obviously prepared for this interview, and yet we probably haven't asked you all the questions you thought we might ask, and I always like to give you the last word, but make sure that as you go here, how does somebody get a hold of you?
Yeah.
And how do they get involved with you and your campaign? Get to know you better so that they can go to the polls better informed.
Yeah, that's a great one. So I am on all of the social medias except for TikTok. I'm going to get in trouble with Gen Z over that one. But my website is vhillforcouncil.com. My Instagram handle is at vhillforcouncil. And then my Facebook page is Melanie V. Hill for Laramie City Council Ward 2. And so that's how you can get a hold of me.
And snail mail?
Snail mail. Like actual physical
Like
letters.
we're out of bounds today without technology here.
Yeah.
And we discovered personally, Facebook Live's not keeping us up.
No.
Holding us up.
Man, that was really a bummer. But yeah, my snail mail, 1966 Polk Street. So I live just right over by Kiwanis Park. I'll also put my phone number up on my socials since I screwed that up in filing.
Well, you open yourself up in willingness to serve the public in such a dynamic way. I have to thank you and commend you and every candidate who entered the race, filed to represent others. And I don't know that today representation is at all easy. I think it's harder than ever, and it's not just a matter of truth. It's really, we're probably more conscious of consequences than maybe we ever have been in generations before. But what question did we not ask you that you were sure we would? And you just want to make sure we don't conclude our time together without sharing that information with our listeners.
Yeah, that's a great one. We've covered a lot. I've really appreciated some of the housing conversations we've had today. I think maybe just a more general one about if you could like wave a magic wand, what would you change about the city of Laramie? And I think for me, the answer to that is, and I've kind of mentioned it before, especially at the beginning, is really keeping young folks here, like making Laramie an environment where young people want to stay. We live in such a transient town, and you'll get that naturally with it being a college town as well. But just the life that I've been able to build here and I'm so proud of is only possible because of awesome people doing hard work in spaces including city council. And so I think that would be the question I would have asked or was maybe expecting, but otherwise, like, you're amazing. I really appreciate your time today. This has been fun.
Well, I've asked you a number of questions that certainly will absolutely be follow-up questions should I have the opportunity with other city council candidates. But I think it's genuine that we don't necessarily have all the answers, and I appreciate the candor that you share confidently in that response. And yet I encourage everyone to think about it, because my neighborhood is transforming as we speak. And it starts with a big dig right on the property line to neighbors that they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know what they'll be able to afford in a year, and their concern is that their retirement not already getting outpaced by taxation. And if government grows and we don't find ways to contain it or perhaps bring more efficiencies, more economies to shrink it, I don't know what the future holds for our aging community, let alone inbound hopes for development of industry or those type of things. And will multi-unit housing provide that answer? Well, it'll certainly get us to the numbers, but it's doggone sure not going to answer the call for a professional to want to invest in the community, and Again, kudos to running, and I look forward to our follow-up. We will have a follow-up when technical issues get ironed out and worked out, and I hope that you'll join me and participate in that. And I hope you've enjoyed this time, and I hope you get a lot of questions and excitement for you and in your endeavors as are you walking the streets, walking the neighborhoods?
I am. I've really started to pick up the pace on that because, like we said, it's like a month out. It just came so quickly. So, yeah, working hard doing that. I would like to at some point have an event here in the next month, just for, I don't know, meet up at the park or something simple, but just in case, you weren't home when I knocked on your door, you can come see me there or what have you. So, but yeah, this has been a really awesome experience. I'm so glad that you were able to have me on today, even with our little tech issues, but it's been great.
This segment of the Campaign Awareness Tour 2024 brought to you in part by Martindale's Western Store, the UPS Store, and H&R Block, along with Corona Village, and the fine folks at the Hilton Garden Inn, Perkins Restaurant and Bakery, and I-80 Towing and Automotive Services. You can catch this interview and all interviews from the Campaign Awareness Tour 2024 at hashtag Campaign Awareness Tour 2024 on social media, Facebook, The Talk Shop. We thank you for listening.